Friends, we're nearing the end of the Friday show, which means there's one thing left to do. Crown a Rich Dick of the Week. Thank you for all the nominations on social media. Rona still at it, throwing in all the damn landlords, specifically landlords who complain online about tenants not paying rent. They seem to not be aware that, like any investment, being a landlord comes with risk. Go cry to someone else about it. Next up, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is nominated for his ongoing fascist remake of Florida's public education system. Then we have a couple nominations related to the ongoing crisis in East Palestine. First up, Pete Buttigieg, who after nearly 3 weeks finally visited the site of the train derailment. He was beaten to it by Donald Trump, which is pretty embarrassing for the Biden administration. And, of course, a very worthy nomination for the guy whose company is responsible for all this. Talking about the CEO of Norfolk Southern, Alan Shaw. I don't know. Seems like if your company is responsible for wrecking an entire town, you should probably resign. People with more honor might commit seppuku, but rich dicks have no honor. Vince McMahon is back in the nomination ring, and so too is Elon Musk, or Elno, as he is referred to here. And then there's a very strong nomination for companies using child labor. That would include McDonald's, which just recently got busted, but also Packer Sanitation Company, which was found recently by the Department of Labor to have been employing more than 100 children doing dangerous work in meatpacking plants, which reads like a headline from more than 100 years ago. The company was fined $1.5 million, which I'd say is getting off easy. Should probably also include state lawmakers who are trying to legalize child labor, like in Minnesota and Iowa. Thank you again for all these strong nominations, but in the end, this week's Rich Dick is former United States Senator Pat Toomey. Yeah, that's right. Thanks to Owen for the nomination on Twitter. Toomey retired from the Senate in January, and all it took him was about a month to step through the revolving door and cash out to work for an industry he's long been doing favors for as a lawmaker. Toomey announced he's joining the board of a giant asset management firm called Apollo Global, where he'll be paid a high six-figure number, or about triple what his salary was as a senator. As Lever News reported, Toomey has been heavily involved in preserving tax breaks that are directly related to Apollo Global's business operations, particularly the carried interest loophole, which allows ultra-wealthy private equity managers to pay lower capital gain tax rates of 20% on their income, as opposed to the regular top income tax rate of 37%. Twice in the last 5 years, it looked like Congress was going to close that loophole, and twice Toomey lobbied against doing that and won. Worth also noting that Toomey's new employer, Apollo Global, also lobbied against closing the loophole. During the debates over the Trump tax cuts in 2017, there was a populist push to get rid of that loophole and to not give the wealthy any more tax breaks, but Toomey was instrumental in squashing that. The Washington Post reported at the time, quote, "Behind the scenes, according to aides, lobbyists, and fellow lawmakers, Toomey played a major role in shaping the Republican tax overhaul, pushing not only for a cut in the top individual rate, but also helping slash rates for corporations and repeal a key provision of the Affordable Care Act." During the course of his career, Toomey received more than $4.5 million in campaign cash from the securities and investment industry. It was his top donor. He's pushed to limit regulation in that industry and introduce legislation that would give private equity firms more access to Americans' 401k holdings. In a statement announcing Toomey's appointment to the board, the CEO of Apollo Global, Mark Rowan, said, quote, "Pat has a reputation for independent thinking and leadership experience in policy areas relevant to Apollo's business." Independent thinking, huh? It's a weird way to describe a guy who spent his career as a lawmaker catering to the industry that gave him the most money. Toomey said in the same press release, quote, "After 18 years in the public sector, I'm excited to bring my differentiated perspectives to the board of Apollo." Differentiated perspectives. You have the exact same perspective as the firm, dude. You've literally been on the same side in every policy fight. Look, just take the money and go through the revolving door. Don't make it sound like this is anything other than a payout for decades of subservience. Now, I know some people might say, well, what the hell else is he supposed to do? Where's he going to go work? If he's not in public office, then by default, he has to join the private sector. To which I'll say, he's an old millionaire. I don't care. Go deliver Meals on Wheels or something. Pat Toomey, this week's Rich Dick.